Here are some recommended books and videos that I found to be very helpful. While not all these materials specifically focus on fear, they offer valuable insights into how the brain functions. Because fear is an emotional process of the brain, gaining a deeper understanding of how the brain works, I have found, has proven beneficial in understanding and addressing fear more effectively. Books. Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. This book explores the two systems of thinking that influence our judgments and decision-making processes, shedding light on the cognitive biases that affect our perceptions. You can think of it as a book about reasonable Rick and anxious Andy. The Righteous Mind: Why Good People Are Divided by Politics and Religion by Jonathan Haidt. Haidt examines the moral foundations that shape our political and religious beliefs and illustrates how individuals often prioritize their intuitions over rational reasoning, leading to ideological divisions. While I don't agree with some of his points, this book made me explore and question my assumptions and the reasons why I hold the opinions and beliefs that I do. In other words, I'm recommending this book because I found it thought-provoking. Factfulness: 10 Reasons We're Wrong About the World and Why Things Are Better Than You Think by Hans Rosling. Rosling challenges common misconceptions and biases about global trends, offering practical tools for thinking more critically and factually about the world. I found this book encouraging in the points it makes about how outdated beliefs and cognitive biases can distort our understanding of issues. I also found that I had a difficult time accepting some of his points, especially his optimism about the state of the world, mainly because of all the years of my military experiences. Blind Spots is written by Max Beiserman and Ann Tinbrusnell. That delves into the concept of ethical decision-making and the cognitive biases that often lead individuals and organizations to make unethical choices. I found their points about how our biases and limitations act as blind spots, sometimes preventing us from seeing that we are making unethical decisions. The Future of Mind, written by physicist and futurist Michio Kaku, explores the cutting-edge research and potential future advancements in neuroscience and cognitive science. In the book, Kaku delves into topics such as consciousness, memory, emotions, and intelligence, offering insights into how our understanding of the brain is rapidly evolving. While the book relies heavily on hypothetical scenarios and futuristic conjecture, I enjoyed the creativity and engaging ideas he discusses in the possibilities of emerging technologies like brain-computer interfaces and neuroprosthetics and mind uploading. I also appreciated the fact he explored the ethical and philosophical implications of these advancements, raising questions about identity, privacy, and the nature of consciousness. Documentaries and films. The Social Dilemma. It's a 2020 documentary that explores the impact of social media platforms on society, particularly focusing on the influence on individuals' behavior, mental health, and the state of democracy. The film features interviews with former employees of major tech companies who provided insights into the design of social media algorithms and their unintended consequences. It highlights how these platforms actually exploit users' attention, manipulate their emotions, and reinforce polarizing narratives to maximize engagement and profit. The documentary also examines the broader societal implications of social media, including its role in spreading disinformation, misinformation, amplifying social divisions, and eroding privacy. The Great Hack, it's a documentary that delves into the Cambridge Analytica scandal, which involved the unauthorized harvesting of millions of Facebook users' personal data for political purposes. The film explores how Cambridge Analytica used this data to target and influence voters during the Brexit referendum and the 2016 U.S. presidential election. Through interviews with former employees and whistleblowers, as well as investigative reporting, The Great Hack reveals the extent of data manipulation and the potential consequences for democracy and privacy in the digital age. It raises important questions about the ethics of data collection, the power of social media platforms, and the need for greater regulation and transparency in the digital realm. Coded Bias is a documentary that explores the social implications and ethical concerns surrounding artificial intelligence and a logarithm bias. The film actually follows MIT Media Lab researcher Joy Bodlum-Wani as she investigates the racial and gender biases embedded within AI systems. Bodlum-Wani's research reveals how facial recognition technology, for example, often misidentifies or fails to recognize individuals with darker skin tones and women, leading to discriminatory outcomes in areas such as law enforcement, hiring practices, and surveillance. Through interviews with experts and activists, Coded Bias highlights the need for greater transparency, accountability, and diversity in the development and deployment of AI technologies. TED Talks. In his TED Talk, The Moral Roots of Liberals and Conservatives, social psychologist Jonathan Haidt explores the psychological and moral differences between liberals and conservatives. He presents research and findings that suggests liberals and conservatives prioritize different moral values, with liberals tending to focus more on care and fairness, and conservatives placing greater emphasis on loyalty, authority, and sanctity. Haidt argues that these moral foundations are deeply ingrained in human nature and have evolved to promote social cohesion and cooperation within groups. He suggests that understanding these moral differences can help bridge the political divide and foster greater empathy and understanding between people with different ideological beliefs. The Brain with David Engelman. This PBS documentary series, hosted by neuroscientist David Engelman, explores the inner workings of the human brain. Through engaging storytelling and cutting-edge research, the series examines topics such as perception, consciousness, memory, and decision-making, offering viewers a fascinating journey into the complexities of the mind. Your Brain, Perception, Deception is a documentary series that delves into the world of perception and cognition. The series explores how the brain constructs our reality and shapes our perceptions of the world around us through various aspects of perception, including vision, hearing, taste, touch, smell, uncovering the intricate processes by which the brain interprets sensory information. The Mind Explained is a Netflix documentary series that offers an accessible and informative look at the mysteries of the human mind. Each episode explores a different aspect of the brain, such as memory, dreams, anxiety, and mindfulness, through a combination of scientific explanations, personal stories, and visual illustrations. This series provides viewers with a comprehensive understanding of how the brain shapes our thoughts, feelings, and experiences. Now, this is by no means an exhaustive list, and many other titles could have been mentioned, but this will offer you a great starting point in doing your own research. Now, I warn you now, there are many rabbit holes to chase down in learning about the brain and its functions, but they are all fascinating and they are all very enlightening. Now, as we learn more every year, there's new materials that are constantly coming out with the latest insights and the newest findings. I think you'll enjoy continuing the journey and these materials offer you a great jumping off point. I mentioned only one TED Talk on this list, but there are plenty more, and I encourage you to check some of those out as well. In conclusion, the sum of all fears amounts to this. Fear plays a bigger role in our daily lives than we give it credit for. Everybody possesses the same basic innate fears. These are universal, and they are not dependent on your environment. We also have inherited fears from our recent ancestors, based on things they encountered. This helps explain why some people are afraid of the dentist or needles and others are not. These heritable fears are tied more closely to your culture, ethnicity, and your race. Then there are the fears we learn on our own, based on our own experiences. Now, taken together, each of us is a unique blending of ancient, ancestral, and personal experienced fears. Perhaps this is why mental health treatments and therapies have to be semi-customized for the individual. While we can find a lot of similarities in fear between different people, we are all more than the sum of our parts. One size does not fit all. Which brings us to our final conclusion. Fear is much more complex than we first thought. By exploring our fears, we get a better understanding of ourselves. And hopefully, this can help us better navigate the modern world, putting us back in the driver's seat, as it were. The power of an unexplored fear is greater than we can imagine, but once examined, it is but a large shadow of a small thing standing in front of a spotlight, projecting a fearsome nothing onto the screens of our minds. Fear is a powerful tool, built right into the hardware and fabric of our being. It's done a magnificent job for our species, with 7.8 billion people and counting currently living on the planet. On March 4, 1933, during the height of the Great Depression, 51-year-old Franklin D. Roosevelt delivers his inaugural address in front of the United States Capitol in Washington, D.C., shortly after being sworn in as the 32nd President of the United States. In one of the most famous lines in U.S. history, he said, "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself." That's the part we hear in sound bites, but the next few words should be just as powerful to us now. The full quote goes like this. So, first of all, let me assert my firm belief that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Nameless, unreasoning, unjustified terror which paralyzes needed efforts to convert retreat into advance. Nameless, unreasoning, unjustified terror which paralyzes. Speaking to a frightened nation in the midst of massive economic uncertainty and social upheaval, he reminded us that unexamined fears only have power when we let them run wild. Nameless fears, unreasoning fears, and unjustified terrors have the power to paralyze. Instead, Roosevelt encouraged us to examine our fears, and that is what we have attempted to do throughout all these sessions. So this concludes the sum of all fears, and our exploration of fear in this series entitled Fear is Not a Four-Letter Word. Fear is an immensely broad subject, and this project by no means covers every aspect of fear. But from the onset, the two goals we set out were to gain a better understanding of what fear is, as in how it works and what it does, and secondly, to gain a better appreciation of just how much fear drives, informs, filters, controls our thinking, decisions, behaviors, and choices. To those ends, I hope we succeeded. I appreciate you taking the time to explore this subject with me and encourage you to continue your own journey in learning about your magnificent brain, how it works, and just how much you can literally change your mind. I'm Brian Beach, and by now, I hope you agree that fear is not a four-letter word.